guys sing? Are you a kid or a grown up?
I'm an adult. I'm 21.
You are still pretty young.
Yeah. I might park next to the tribe, but I don't know what to do over there with the adults. So, like, I just gotta be honest. Scared. I'm scared.
Why?
I don't know. I'm just nervous.
About what? About being a grown up?
Yeah. A grown up.
God is everywhere and God is one. Okay, what's racing? Let's see how long this goes. It's going that long. Let's sing.
Yada yaba yaba hey I. Yaba 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 hey I. Ya 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 yo. Ay 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 ay. Ay 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 ay. Ay 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 yo. Ay 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 yo. Ay 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 amai amai yo. Ya da da ya ba ya de da yo. Ay 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 ya ba yo. Ya ba ya ba ya ba ya. Ya ba ya ba ya ba ya. Ya 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 yo. Yava 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 ya yava 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 ya hi 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 yo hi amba ya yo amba ya yava yava yo hi amba ya yo Ambaya yaba yaba yo. Hi hi yaba yaba hi. Amba yaba yaba yo. Hi hi yo. Hadai amba yaba yo. Amba yaba yaba yo. Hi, hi, oh. That melody comes from Levi Yitzhak of Berdichev, the Berdichever Rebbe, who has a teaching about this holiday that I just love. He said that when God told Moses that the Israelites should prepare to receive Torah, they shouldn't get too close to the mountain. They should just work on preparing themselves. God said for 2 full days. But in the Torah, it says that we actually prepared for 4 days. So what's the deal? According to Levi Yitzchak, Moses got to the end of 2 days, and he started walking up this mountain. Could we get the mountain moving a little bit? He started walking up this mountain, and then he stopped. And he turned around, and he looked at all the Jews standing around, and he said to himself, are these people actually ready? Like, I think that they're ready to obey God's laws, and I think they're ready to take in all these rules and follow them. And Moses then looked up and looked at God and said, I think this God is ready to be obeyed and listened to. But I don't think these people are ready yet to be able to take the Torah and make it their own and push against it and fight against it and tell stories about it and argue with each other about it. And Moses looked up at God and said, I don't think this God is ready yet to have the humans rebel against God and still love them. And so Moses extended our preparation for another full day, 2 days. And in that time, we all learned how to be messier together. And friends, that is the model in which we get to sink into these extra hours of learning. We are lengthening the hours to figure out what are the special things that we need this year. And in that model, I want to teach a melody that I learned from my mother-in-law, Rabbi Hannah Dresner, that she learned at Torah summer camp, which she always calls the Figure It Out Nigun. And we're going to sing just the very first part of it, just the part that you're supposed to sing when you have a problem and you can't quite figure it out. And then a little bit later, we are going to learn the second part of it as well, which is once you've figured it out. It goes like this. Ya ba 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 yam ba ya da da ya 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 yo. Ya da 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 dum ba ya da da ya 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 da 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 dum ba ya ya ba ya yiddy ya 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 da 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 dum ba ya da da ya yo ya da 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 dum ba ya da da ya yo ya da 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 dum ba yum ba ya da dum ba ya di dum ba yum ba ya da da dum ba ya da da ya yo ya da da dum ba ya da da ya yo ya da da dum ba ya da da ya da da ya da da dum ba ya da da yo ya da da dum ba ya da da yo ya da da dum ba ya da da Friends, we're going to sing our way through that melody one more time. And while we're doing it, I invite folks who are on the ground and folks who are in chairs, if you feel like you can, to get up and push those chairs to the perimeter of our space because our klezmer band is about to take us through a klezmery, dancey, singy experience of revelation. Ya-da-da-da-dum-ba, ya-da-da-ya-ya-ya-yo. Ya-da-da-da-dum-ba, ya-ya-ya-da-da-ya, ya-da-da-ya-ya-ya-yo. Ya-da-da-da-dum-ba, ya-da-da-ya-ya-ya-yo. Ya-da-da-da-dum-ba, ya-da-da-ya-ya-ya-yo. Ya-da-da-da-dum-ba, yum-ba, ya-da-dum-ba, ya-da-da-ya-ya-ya-yo. I'm going to invite us to make a spacious big circle standing around this room. If people want to get to my left and right, and let's reach all the way around this space.
Here on, no one can see you.
Okay, beautiful.
So,
Speaking from here would be good.
okay.
You guys are so good at following instructions.
You're going to lead the... Yeah. Okay, friends. Chag Sameach. So we're going to kind of step into a journey over the next 30, 40 minutes. And we're going to start with Esa Enai. We're going to start with a psalm that's used in some traditions at the end of Tefillat Haderech. It's used as part of the traveler's prayer. And we tonight are going to take a journey up a mountain and back down. There's some really important stuff up on that mountain that we're reaching forward to bring into ourselves and our lives in the dancing and the singing. But before that, we have to get ready to travel. And so I just want to invite you to look around at this sweet room of people. You're all fellow travelers tonight. And it's gonna take each and every one of us to get up the mountain, to travel, and to bring, crucially, one another back down the mountain. So we're gonna sing, and then the music is gonna start. We're gonna dance, and wanna invite you to just really be like, these are the people I'm going on the journey with tonight. Ooh. You found something up there.
Esahenai el harim me'ain yavo Ezri. Esahenai el harim me'ain yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai.
This is on your sheets of paper, if you still have them.
Ve'aretz Ezri me'im Adonai. Osei Shamayim ve'aretz. We'll begin our dancing at the bottom of the mountain, looking up, gradually getting a little higher and a little higher and a little higher. We're honored to be joined by our Simcha band tonight and our very skilled dance lead, Sarah Larson.
One of the very nice things about a lot of Ashkenazic Jewish dancing is just like we talk with our hands a lot, we dance with our hands a lot. So I'm going to start as a little seated dancer. So especially for the people who are sitting, we're going to use our arms. And the people standing, you can use your arms too. hand. So in the middle, rock, left, little left. Raise your right hand. We'll do that with the in the middle one. Right, 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 little right. In the middle, and rock, and left, little left. Woo! Right, 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 little right. In the middle, and rock, and left, little left.
it like all the way up there at the top of the mountain? Pretty hard to breathe, a little sweaty. Just do we want to hear a story? Esther, I've never said no in my whole life.
So this was back in 2007, I think, and I was visiting Sinai, and I went up to the, I didn't go early in the morning because there was a lot of people, so I went in the middle of the day, and I got to the top, and there were only two, I was with a friend, and there were two other people at the top of the mountain, and those two other people just happened to be, it was two people much younger than me. One of them was enrolled in the college in Vermont that I had graduated from 30 years earlier. And the other lived in the same neighborhood as my grandparents. So that was like really weird. And so I got to the top and I think, I'm on top of Mount Sinai, I should really do something Jewish. Like I should do something, I should pray in Hebrew or something. I should do something, I'm at the top. And I kind of pull myself away from the other people. And I hear this sound. And I hear salsa music. And I'm like, what's happening? And there was a, I don't know what you call the group of reserves. No, they're a group of National Guard. They're a group of like National Guard from Puerto Rico who had been based in Puerto Rico who were visiting, and they came up and they had a boom box playing salsa, and they had it was Thanksgiving Day, and they had chocolate and wine. And I was like, this is the best way to be up at the top of Mount Sinai. And one of them let me use their phone. I didn't have a cell phone at the time. One of them let me use their phone. I called my family at Thanksgiving dinner and drank wine, ate chocolate, and danced salsa at the top of Mount Sinai.
I feel like we were all on the mountain just now with you. Okay, we've danced, we've drank wine, we've danced salsa, we've eaten chocolate. And now we get to make our way down the mountain together. And so I just want to invite you to take a moment to just like notice exactly how you feel right now. Sweaty, yes. Just to like be inside of that for a moment up here with the salsa music at the top of the mountain. And then we're gonna slowly make our way down the mountain, and just an invitation that it's actually sometimes harder going down than going up, right? When maybe if you've gone hiking and you're like, it's hard to go up, but then I go down and I feel like I'm just rolling. Just an invitation to make sure we bring each other with us down the mountain, to really notice how somebody else's step moves, how it feels to be in the group together, and we'll just roll slowly and carefully down the mountain.
Let's get another huge woohoo for the band. And for Sarah Larson, our incredible dance lead. Friends, because we are in the upside down and we have leftover Homentashen from Purim, there is some Homentashen to eat. We will find ourselves back here with some help from friends setting up chairs for our next session that'll start in about 5 minutes.
Yes, please tell me about it.
He just showed me what it would look like to zoom in to see my hands,
Yeah.
and really it would be us on the bema, not right here.
Okay, we need you. Often at services, we have us like right in front of the bema.
Excuse me, folks. Welcome to people who are freshly here. Gratitude to people who have been boogieing and eating and being together and dancing under a parachute with children for the past many hours. We still have a long time to go. Welcome to Shavuot at Shir Tikva, and just a huge welcome to Susan Raffo. Thank you so, so much for being here. And to Andy, our wonderful interpreter tonight. As I was thinking about this holiday in the context of the life that we've all collectively moved through and individually moved through over the last 6 months, I've been thinking about what it looks like to receive revelation in a moment where our nervous systems are still in the reverberating crisis of metro surge, of invasion and pain, and thinking about what it'll look like for us to still be in love and movement and collaboration and art making together for decades to come. And as I've been chewing on those questions, I've been thinking about and reaching to, like the psalm we sang earlier, I've been looking up to the mountain for my teachers. And I'm just so deeply grateful to have Susan Raffo with us tonight as someone who has been doing movement work, who's been doing somatic, embodied work for so long to teach us a little bit of what it looks like to be together and to be together in a sustainable way in these times. So with no further ado, thank you so, so much, Raffo.
Of you. So that means that this is stuff that I'm thinking about. It doesn't feel all the way landed in my bones yet. So you'll see that I might look at my notes sometimes. And so I'm actually going to learn by what I feel from you in this room, right? And so that doesn't mean that you have to take care of me. It doesn't mean that I expect anything from you, but I want to be clear that I'm learning alongside you, right? And that in terms of access, there will be a few times that I'm going to invite you, and you can do this a couple of different ways. I'm going to invite you to, for people who are with people, so folks in this room and folks on Zoom who are not alone, to turn to the person next to you and to share something. Whenever that invitation comes, I want to say the obvious thing, but it still feels really important. You share what you want to share, including you don't want to share anything. And so whenever I invite people to have a moment of sharing, if I'm sitting next to somebody and I'm like, hey, do you want to share? And if they say no, I get to practice remembering I have no idea why they said no. Okay? Is this okay with the mic? I just felt some ring. We're good. If you prefer not to do that, you can sit and think, you can write, but that's one of the things we're going to be doing. And what I want to talk about with you and learn with you is how do we hold overwhelm in a way that leads to transformation, as opposed to collapse, loss, or forgetting. And on this particular day, thank you. I'm going to keep going until I get the sign that I should stop, but I might be doing this a lot. That's what I want to be in practice with you on. And so we're going to start with practice. I'm going to direct you through something body-based. You be with it as much or as little as you would like. The first thing, friends, is notice that you are alive. Notice your aliveness. Without judgment, without having to change anything. How can you tell that you are alive right now? You might notice how fast or slow you feel inside. Hello, dancers. Your heart rate might be starting to slow a little bit. You might be a little bit sweaty. Maybe there are thoughts that are racing through you. Do you feel heavy or light? Is the way you feel right now familiar to you, or does it feel different? Do you have pain? Hello, beloveds who have pain. Do you have pain? Are you sleepy? Or are you alert? So just notice your aliveness. And notice if, as I've been inviting you to notice your aliveness, if anything has changed. Do you feel, and I'm going to do this with my voice, do you feel like maybe you've slowed down a little bit? Or do you feel like you've sped up? Or something in the middle? So now I'm going to invite you to imagine something. I'm going to invite you to imagine your aliveness as a function of time. Here's what I mean by that. Each one of our bodies comes from bodies before. You can notice how much you know and how little you know about the bodies that were the bodies that were the bodies that shaped you. And I'm not just talking about bloodlines. There are bloodlines, hello genetics. There are kin lines. There is the land itself, the land you live on now, and the lands that your people have lived on, the many different lands. So I'm going to invite you to notice this by doing something very simple, which is noticing your bones. Hello, bones. If you're comfortable with it, you can actually feel your bones. Jaw's an easy place, skull's an easy place, wrists are an easy place, collarbones. So you might already know this, but your bones are one of the easiest ways to access histories, time. Because your bones are made of minerals, chromium, magnesium, calcium, so many minerals that are right this second in you. The shell of a beetle from 500 years ago, the bark of a tree, the water of the ocean, the water in the river, somebody whose name you have no idea of. The minerals in our body are continually recycled. So I want you just to take a moment to notice, to remember, and don't worry about figuring it out, getting it right, or etc. Again, just to notice each one of us in here is carrying time that shaped us. And I'm going to ask you to do something that for some of you might be, I do this all the time, for others might be, this is weird, other things in the middle, is to take a moment to just listen. If the time that is held in your body, these minerals that were other bodies before, genetic memory, and I'm going to ask you to go further back than memory, not just the stories you already know, but further back. If time were to whisper to you right now, the way spring water comes up through the ground, not searching with your brain and straining, but letting it rise, what is one thing that it might say to you? What is one thing that you just notice in the way that your aliveness in this moment carries time? And if you are comfortable, turn to somebody next to you. If you don't know each other yet, introduce yourself and just tell them what you've noticed and listen to what they did, if you're comfortable. That's me. That's what I think too. What almost always comes up for me when I drop in, which I didn't just now, is wait. Just this sense of freedom. So just a few more minutes. For sure. No, and I'm not going to share back now. This is just the warm-up, but yeah. Thank you. All right, start to finish that thought, noticing the 1-hour conversation you could have right now. So on this day of remembering what it is, the revelation of what is huge and awesome and terrible, how do we orient to what is huge and awesome and overwhelming and more than what a single body can hold? That practice, your invitation, was to orient to time. The thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands, who knows, that is in your body, and to just let whatever is there rises. How do we deal with what is so large that our brains can't hold it on its own? Some of you might have heard of this. There is something that I say is a gift of our ancestors, meaning it is something that has evolved, which is called the rubber band effect. Right? I see some nods. So the rubber band effect is something that happens to us when we experience or witness or are told something that is so immense that we have that moment where we're like, what? What do I do? How huge this is. It's so massive. And you can feel, this happens, I'm going to use one that is pretty common for most of us. This happens when facing climate change, for example. See a lot of nods. It can happen when facing the large scale of authoritarianism that is eroding things so quickly. It happens for so many reasons. This moment of immensity where you stand in front of it and it feels like it changes everything. Nothing can go back to being the same, says your brain on your own. The rubber band effect is something that we're not even aware that it's happening when it's happening, and it's literally what a rubber band is. Snap back. Suddenly, 2 days later, we're just in our lives as though we didn't have that moment 2 days ago. We haven't forgotten it, per se, but we don't remember it. We are not it. Maybe it's that idea that is on the shelf that we'll look at and go, oh, I really should think about that more. Oh, wow, I've got to make dinner, right? I really should pay some attention to that. Oh, I've got to go pick up the kids. Days go by. And we're remembering it. It's not gone, but it is not immense. So right now, I want you to notice if there is a time when that has happened for you. I'm going to go a little bit deeper, but before I get deeper, I want to remind you that for an individual body alone, this is a gift. There is no should attached to this. If this happens, it is because it is too much to hold on your own. I'm going to say that again. If this happens, it's because it is too much to hold on your own. So another little practice with time. We just went through something and we are going through something. It did not start in November and December. It did not end in March or April. And there was an intensity from December through March, Operation Metro Surge. Again, it is not done. I don't assume that everybody in this room is safe right now. I also don't assume that there is nobody in this room who has family members or on Zoom who have been kidnapped. I don't know all of you. It's not done. I want you to remember something from the midst of Surge that you witnessed, that you heard about through somebody else, that happened to you, that happened to somebody you love. And for the purpose of this, don't bring up the most raw and visceral, unmetabolized thing unless you feel ready to hold it. You're invited to just bring to mind something. And as you bring that to mind, I want you to imagine, how far away from your body is it? Does it feel inside you? Right up against your skin? If you were standing in this room and it was somewhere in this room, would you be at one end of the room and it would be at the other? I'm not going to ask you to share this with somebody. I'm going to ask you to notice in the way of telling yourself the truth. Does it feel so far away that it feels a little bit foggy? Just notice. How real does it feel? Does it feel like it happened to somebody else? Or like, wow, so much has happened since then. That feeling of distance. So I'm going to invite you to, again, to turn to somebody, but not necessarily to share how far away it is, but just to share what you are noticing right now, right? Noticing about rubber banding, about time, and about proximity. Just what's alive in you. I want you to do another moment of checking before I talk some more, because your aliveness in this moment matters. So go ahead, just turn next to somebody. For people on Zoom, go ahead and write, but just take a moment to reflect. What are you noticing right now? Just a few more minutes. All right, loves. So I want you to notice what you noticed, either what you said or what you heard, or for those of you writing, what you wrote down. Just notice, did anything stand out for you from either the first time or the second time? Because I'm now going to start going on a real quick dance through the physicality of time, and then we're going to talk about what happens when we are overwhelmed and the difference between individual and collective bodies, and how the hell we sit in the span of time and pain and seek transformation rather than forgetting. On this day, which is about remembering deeply. So that's our span, and I wanted to start with you here. Who am I in this moment? What do I remember? How far away is it? How close? Just what is true right now? I love that one of the things that happened across Metro Surge while it was happening, there's nothing I loved about it in terms of the fact that it was happening. But one of the things I loved was how well we time traveled and we stepped out of linear time. Every single time somebody would say here locally or from outside speaking in, why is this happening in the cities the way that it is? Why is it different this time? Why are they doing this? We would turn to each other or to them and we would start to tell stories. Let me tell you about what it was like in 2020 in the uprising and what I learned. Let me tell you about when I was up protecting the waters and fighting against Line 3 and learning from Indigenous elders. Let me tell you what that was like for me. Let me tell you about the 4th Precinct after Jamar Clark was murdered and what we learned. And each time, and then let me tell you from my people, my family, the way we've always remembered that we feed each other, we protect each other, and I had forgotten. I've not always been practicing as much as I want to, but I'm remembering that we know this. And some of us said to each other, our people have always known this. And it became true in a way that maybe 2 months ago, it wasn't as much. And we felt that this weird Western idea of the past, which of course is still here with us, in our bones, in our bodies, in these moments where we rise and meet a moment without exactly remembering why. And then that shifts and it shapes us because then suddenly what comes next is also here, all at the same time. We circle with time. Time, hey love, time is not linear. It happened again and again. Did you also notice this, the number of times this happened? Do you notice this even right now as we remember it together? You know? What I have been taught and I have learned, I am not Jewish, so I'm also learning, and I'm so grateful and honored to learn, is that the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people as a whole prior to the Exodus was the command to sanctify time by determining and applying the Jewish calendar, which as I have been taught and as I've been experienced, is a calendar that is tied to the moon and that remembers that the earth has cycles. And so when I heard that as somebody learning from outside coming in, comparing it to the traditions I have that don't have that, I thought this is time as a physical thing again, where you remember who you are because of where the moon is, what's happening outside right now. And this is when we remember Shavuot. It's this moment. Right? And I thought here again is time as a circle, as a physical thing, not what this strange Western idea has done, which turned time into little tiny bits that seem to keep getting fuller and fuller with each year that passes, and the absurd violence that says Pay no attention to the past because it's done and we are not responsible for it, and the future is for those who come next, a form of violence. So here we are in the middle of all of this. And so I want you to feel before I go in how time can almost hold you like a container, like a support. And I recognize that within that time, there is pain. There are things that are not healed or finished, and that is here as well. And still, in January and February, when people asked, how did this happen in Minneapolis, we remembered we have been these people before and will be them again, and it got stronger, and we kept reminding each other, and we're reminding each other still. So let time hold you for a second. About 2 years after Black Lives Matter formed, I was talking to somebody who's a friend. I am not name dropping, I am honoring him. It might be somebody people in this room know. Prentice Hemphill. He was, after Michael Brown was murdered and Black Lives Matter emerged, Prentice was the first person who was hired as the Healing Justice Coordinator for Black Lives Matter. And he was in that position somewhere between a year, 2 years. And I was talking to him after he left. And he said, and I'm about to tell a story about a people that are not my own, and so I hope that I hold this well, and I want to remember that I'm telling a story about a people who are not my own. But he said to me, he said, you know, one of the reasons I left is I realized that when we were in groups together, we, as somebody who is Black amongst Black folks after Michael Brown was murdered, he said, the amount of pain that was here in the room was so great that when it rose in the room amongst us, we didn't have enough to hold it. It was so great that it had nowhere to go. And he said it's one of the reasons why I'm turning in my work towards doing what he does now with the Embodiment Institute, et cetera, is continuing to build practice, support, capacity to hold something that is intolerable, 500 plus years of intolerable. And I remember when he said this, and I've asked him if it's okay that I quote him on this because this is such a gift, when he said, there are some things, some kind of pain, some kinds of overwhelm that are just too big for an individual body to hold. They're too big for a small group to hold. In order for them to move through us, so that they can turn into that which they are, is wisdom, heal, integrate, and complete. Well, first, the violence needs to stop. Be clear about that. But in addition, we don't know how many it needs, but it needs more than a few. So again, the gift of that is there are some things that are too great for an individual body to hold. Snap back. So that emerged. Here's another thing. It takes 3 generations for something that you experienced that changed you completely, the things like who we have been over these last months on top of who we were before. It takes 3 generations for that to become who we are as a people, not just what you experienced in a particular time, in a body, in a community. 3 generations. How wise that there is an entire holiday every year that is repeated where you remember something that is beyond the capacity to conceive as an individual. Something that is enormous for God to reveal himself to you as a people. How extraordinary that there is a day where what is held is the immensity of it together. That is only one small example. So here we are. I don't ever want to say 3 months after Metro Surge because I get so worried about the after. I can feel my own snapback in that, but I also don't want to be precious. and pretend like my life has not shifted, is not different now than it was 3 months ago. So let's be in the fuzziness of that, right? But here we are. We know that there's more Border Patrol agents out there. We know that this is not done. We know that we're watching an administration attempt to destroy the tiniest little bit of collective safety that this country was ever willing to share. We know, and depending on who you are and what you just did, those things either feel far away or they feel close. But we all experienced something. And one of the conversations and questions that I'm hearing all of the time, and I'm saying, and I'm guessing you are as well, is what do we do next? How do we continue this? What do we do? Is that, I'm looking for head, is that stuff that you are saying or that you are hearing, or does it feel like that's not around you? Thank you for those head nods. It's everywhere around me. Sometimes in the way of like, what do we do as though there's a right answer? Sometimes what do we do with a little bit of desperation, fear of forgetting? Sometimes what do we do coming from a place of responsibility? But there is this sense of we must not forget, you know? So I want to say one more piece here. I keep layering, it's kind of how I talk. So one of the things I love about the word belonging is that the word belonging literally means to be in the long. Belonging is not something that's just here. It's not something we're entitled to. It's not something waiting for us to stumble across it. Belonging emerges over time. Right? Belonging, and I'm going to use this language, is a field. Right? It's a relational field. It's the way that when you have a certain group of friends or someplace or coming to Shir Tikva and you walk in and there's something that just happens automatically, right? You've been here long enough that there are things that you feel, that something shifts. And maybe you don't feel like you belong and you've been coming for 6 years, right? Or maybe you do. But belonging emerges. Belonging is not just about a place. Belonging is not just about a relationship. We belong to the histories, to the stories we tell each other of what we've been through. Collectively, we belong to Operation Metro Surge, to these last months, although we have experienced it very differently. But we belong to a wider field. We went through that. We talked to each other. We are going through that. We belong to 2020, those of you who are here in the uprising. We belong, and for yourself, just take a moment to notice when I say you belong to history, to things that have happened, to experiences. What feels most fresh for you? Just take a moment to notice so you don't have to listen to my voice. So how do we belong to this shared experience where we do not all experience it the same way, in such a way that who we have been and who we have not been during Operation Metro Surge does not snap back over 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, as though it's just one of those things that happened? How do we belong to it in a way that is about accountability? I'm going to tell you the truth. Here's the ways I showed up. Here's the ways I didn't. Here's what it feels like to be a family that wasn't targeted. Here's what it feels like to have somebody who's beloved to me who was kidnapped. Here's what it feels like to be in relationship with somebody who experienced this very differently. Here's what it feels like to notice that if I don't actively think about this today, I actually don't have to remember. So how do we belong to this in a way where we are transformed rather than snap back? Where we are nourishing the physicality of time, this collective body and experience that is deeply different for each of us, so that maybe, and this is a prayer and not a plan, 3 generations from now, those who come are also shaped, even if they don't know the stories, by who we have been. So first, there's not a right answer here. If you're comfortable, turn to whoever's next to you and just notice the question. And so if you are awkward, well done. Like, this is not a right answer moment. I'm not asking a question looking for an answer. I'm asking a question seeing what surfaces. How do we belong to what it is that we have been through so that it transforms us rather than we forget? So just turn to the person next to you and notice what is alive and what comes up. Don't worry about it. Just talk about whatever is here. Hello, Lala. You know what that is. Just a little bit longer. And you can finish that sentence. And thank you, folks on Zoom who are writing or talking. So notice what you already know, no matter how awkward or I didn't actually answer any of the questions you raised. I talked about something else. That's fine. Trust what came. But notice what you already know, no matter how awkward, or if you're like, I don't actually even know what I'm talking about. She said talk, so I'm talking. Still, notice what you already know. How do we remember what is more than what a single brain can hold? What is overwhelming? My God, it is overwhelming. It is overwhelming. I am thinking of a family I talked to this week whose parents are no longer here. It is overwhelming. It is intolerable. It is wrong. That word is so small, it is pathetic. This is what is true. How do we become the people who remember as a way of becoming, not as having a story on the shelf? To say that I am honored to be here as you are doing it. This is one of the ways. There is nothing magic on a day that you celebrate every year. When you remember that place where revelation, remembering, and emergence come together, on this day, you are attending to what we have gone through together. So we practice first by being in relationship to who we already are, and then listening for what we already are, who we already are, can contain this, that it can deepen what we already know. Is there anything that you experienced over these months that deepened your sense of what it is to be Jewish? For some of you, yes. For some of you, no. For some of you, I haven't thought about it. All of that is fine. Those are all right answers. But notice that. Or did it deepen your relationship to queerness? Did it deepen your relationship to the fact that you know how to cook and you know how to feed other people? Did it deepen your relationship to how far you can push yourself in ways you didn't expect? Or did it deepen your relationship to noticing, I could have gone farther than I did? I don't want to turn us into heroes, y'all. I want to be very careful about that, while also lifting and respecting deeply what it is that we held. So first, we build on who we already are. And then the second thing, I'm not telling you this as an answer. I suddenly realized, it's like, here's what we do, and then transformation happens. No. So here's offerings. Please, me too. As I said, we're learning together. So here's offerings. We start from where we are. And then the next piece I'm just going to share is because it's in relationship to this idea of doing, right? Which, depending on the particular way that you have been shaped culturally, and I don't just mean being Jewish, I mean your class, I mean which part of this country you grew up in, I mean what you learned from your parents and the people around you, like doing can be its own little sacred thing, right? That is almost separate from being, right? Big time. So within that, what is another thing? So I don't know, linking arms, but then also I want to practice. Remember I said that belonging emerges over time? It's about being in the long. It's not a thing that we just get, although when we're born, we begin practicing it with the world around us, for sure. But there's something about nourishing that field, like not doing for you or you or you, but nourishing this relationship, this field, this thing that we have shared, nourishing it, feeding it so it grows stronger. What does that look like? It definitely looks like telling the truth to each other and being witnessed with it. Here is what I'm forgetting. Here is what I did. Here is what I didn't do. Here is how much I want people to pay attention to what a badass I was, and I'm so uncomfortable with that. Here is how annoyed I am at that person who's talking about what a badass they were, and I wish they'd shut up. Here is my shame that I don't know what's happening to that family anymore that I was caring for. I got tired and I had to stop, and I feel shame about that. And I want to stop hiding it because there's this discomfort with the privilege that I have. Again, I'm not assuming that's everybody's experience in this room or on Zoom. So we tell the truth, right? And we tell the truth in ways where we feel it. Please do not turn your story into an object to present to somebody else. I'm going to say that again. Please don't turn your story into an object that you present to somebody else. Sometimes nourishing it is getting support from somebody to be witnessed. Like, there's this thing I can't feel anymore, and it's creeping me out. Could you ask me a bunch of questions and possibly slap me up the side of the head? Because I want to feel something, whatever is your thing. Right? But it is finding a way to come back in. Did very many of you go to the grief ritual in Powderhorn Park? I see some head nods. I got to be a part of, this is more just I'm about to tell a story from it, so I got to be a part of the people who were bringing that together. And there was this moment as we were, the first day, for those of you who were there, for those of you who weren't, the first day was Lakota held. We were profoundly privileged to witness and be a part of a Lakota ceremony honoring Renee Good and Renee's family. And then the second hour was sort of community that included Native folks, but sort of multicultural community held. And we were talking about how this was going to end. And there was a bunch of us who were doing that movement thing. We're going to end where we're all going to come together, and we're going to be like, we can defeat ICE. Like, we can do it. That wonderful political juice lift. We were deep in it. Because there's nothing wrong with that. But Gabby Strong, who is one of the Lakota spiritual elders, who some people in this room or on Zoom might know, after we were talking, she stopped us and she said, "Why do you want to end differently than how we began?" We began by remembering that we are here to protect our neighbors. And our neighbors are the people around us. It is the land that makes our life possible. That's what we started with. We feed each other. We notice if we're not safe or if somebody's not safe. We show up in a way that might feel risky because we're not sure if we're getting in the way. All of those things that, if you remember, were happening in early January as a lot of people were sort of saying, am I allowed to do this thing? Should I ask for permission? God, authoritarianism is so deep inside us. And then we began to shift, and we started to more and more of us just started to respond because we saw a need. And so Gabby just reminded us, we end as we began. There is nothing more magic than this. We take care of each other. We feed each other. We keep each other safe. All of our neighbors. When we know nothing else to do, that is always what we do. That is what we remember and we practice. That is what we all know prevents snapback. It's not magical. It just ends up being held in the bodies around us who have experienced, if not this, something else. If not this, something's coming up. Is we just are in practice. We just do it. And I, like you, have no idea if that is enough. I trust the elders I have heard tell me it is, but there's still a part of me inside that is looking for something more, that I'm supposed to do more, that if I figure out the right answer, I will fix it. But then I remember that while I'm trying to think of the right answer, I'm actually forgetting sometimes to slow down and just be accountable to you, that I forgot to show up last week. Or that you were sick and I'm not sure if somebody's actually been cooking for you. Or, do your kids need help? How many people right now know folks with littles where it's now the summer holidays and they're needing to figure out this absurd calendar of camps and things to make sure, because, so few of us can afford to be home all the time over the summer. What would it be to just cook a meal a week for them through the summer? Like, there's so many practical ways we can still be those people. And again, I don't know if this is the answer. But I have this feeling, first, I am told that it is by people who are much wiser than I am, but I still get confused. But I do know if the relationship keeps being between us, if I keep risking to go across the absurdity of this privacy thing between us, where I'm not supposed to get in your stuff and you're not supposed to get in mine, where if I actually ask and you ask over enough time, maybe that builds a different field. Maybe 3 generations from now, we don't have to remember because it's just who we are in the deepest way. I keep wondering all of the time, is it really this simple? I don't believe that it is, but I also believe that doing that, what we already know how to do, that thing that helps us cross time, that when we are doing it, when the other things show up that we have to do, it's a lot clearer, because there will always be other things. So notice your aliveness, friends. How are you right now? Just do a scan. And I want you to bring your imagination back to where I started when I said you had a memory of something. I asked you to remember something that you've experienced over the last 3 months and to notice how far away or how close it is. Just do a recheck. Notice if anything about that has changed. Maybe distance has changed. Maybe intimacy has changed. Maybe nothing has changed at all. Those are all right answers. Just notice. And then the last thing I'll say, and then, to say questions feels weird because I don't have answers, but if there's anything anybody wants to say into this collective space, we're going to have a little bit of that. There doesn't have to be. But collective space, right? There are some things that are too much for an individual body to hold. There are some things that are too much for an individual body to hold, that we have to hold together. So right now, just notice what it feels like when you hear that. And if there is any commitment, any story, any revelation that you want to hold for yourself right now, just something that is almost a promise, something that you're like, within my fantastic agency, my aliveness, this is something I want, I am, I will. Just take a moment to notice. It's yours. I'm not going to ask you to share that unless you want to when we open the room. And include in that the one that is often the hardest for us, all of us, defended, cautious humans. If there's any repair, any accountability that will support our transformation from these last months, just notice that as well. Ick, ush, ooh, but true. And then release. Stretch, move, wiggle, burp, do what is needed. And then literally, we have, looks like we have about 10 minutes or so before you're going to get fabulous Beth Semsky but I'm 10:15. I don't assume there has to be, but I'm like, hi, real people on the camera here in the room. Just notice if there's anything you want to share. And when I say notice if there's anything you want to share, I want to remember, the feeling of that is like there's suddenly words that are rising up, or you get that itch, maybe you get sweaty, and you're like, I want to say this thing, but is it the right thing? Is it, etc.? Just notice, because in each of our bodies, there are stories and words that the room is hungry for if they want to come through. So we'll just wait and we'll sit in silence for a little unless somebody is like, I have a thing. Then we will turn to you. Please. Did you just have your hand up, or are you doing? Please. Hi. Thanks for being the microphone runner.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because y'all laughed. One thing that I was thinking about that struck me was just thinking about how much it's taken to like actually learn how to feel those things that are too big, and like how much conditioning I've experienced to like not even think about how they feel, like don't feel them at all, and like trying to imagine that there are people who do feel them, and like working on like getting through that conditioning and breaking down those barriers, and giving myself grace as well for not knowing how that feels like all the time.
Did you see how many people nodded their heads when you said that? There were heads nodding. I want you to have known that. Thank you for speaking. May we be in practice with each other. Mm-hmm. Just a few more minutes and see if anything wants to come through. And if not, I might ask Leela or Ariel to lead a song to end this. Or anybody else, but they're the ones who I know who sing. Thanks. Thank you.
I am thinking about the ways that I am already seeing that snapback happen.
Thank you for
throughout
saying
the city. Going through town and seeing, my neighborhood used to be so full of like posters and stickers like on every street post, and so many of them have been taken down. And even the massive posters honoring Renee and Alex have been torn down or painted over in different places, and it makes me so mad to think that like we only get a couple of months to commemorate these people who are gone forever. And it also makes me really wonder, like, who are the people that are taking these down? Who are the people that are painting over this? Like because in the midst of things, like, the city felt so united, and it felt like we were all on the same team. So who are all of these people taking the posters down? Where have they been this whole time? It makes me really mad and confused.
Thank you for that. I'm always like, I want things to stay until we say, oh, it's so here. It's so deeply, it is in here now that we don't need it there anymore because it's who we are now, and we never have the time for that. Thank you for naming that.
So I moved to Minneapolis about a year ago. So
Welcome.
I think like it kind of reminds me of my Hebrew name. It's Hadassah, and it's my favorite book, obviously, because that's my Hebrew name. And my favorite line from it is like the one that's like, "For such a time as this," or maybe this is the reason you were created. And that's like, it comes back to like the aspect of belonging. And it's like, if everything has led me to the moment that I am here, then it must mean that I belong, and I must do what it takes to make others feel like they belong. And it hit me hard when Alex Preddy was killed a 20-minute walk away from my house. And I am a nursing student, and I thought, I'm going to take that same oath he does. And he took his oath so seriously that it killed him. But that's not how anyone should die. And then it reminds me, the 3 generations thing. I'm like 3rd or 4th generation down from a Holocaust survivor. And that I'm like, I wish that more of my family was still here, and that if there had been that community resistance in Vienna in the 1930s and the 1940s, more of my family is here. And I think we have such a community that has resisted and helped others that 3 generations from now, there's not going to be people like me or like so many Jewish people that are like, well, I just don't know. So I guess there's that. We've done something. It's not great, but it's better than it could be, because we are a community, and we're making sure everybody belongs when they're saying you don't belong here.
Do you know the oath by heart, that the one that you said that you wanted? And if not, no pressure.
I know it like almost by heart, but I can like say it out loud if you want.
Yeah, that's what I was going to invite you to do. You just name the oath if you don't mind saying it in the room. I have no idea why I want you to do that, but it just feels right.
It's called the Nightingale Pledge. It's a modified version of the Hippocratic Oath. And it goes, I solemnly pledge myself before God and in the presence of this assembly to pass my life in purity and to practice my profession faithfully. I will abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous, and will not take or knowingly administer any harmful drug. I will do all in my power to maintain and elevate the standard of my profession, and I will hold in confidence all personal matters committed to my keeping and all family affairs coming to my knowledge and the practice of my calling. With loyalty will I endeavor to aid the physician in his work and devote myself to the welfare of those committed to my care. And that's like the short version. I love the whole Hippocratic Oath. There's an aspect of the whole oath that is like, you are taking an oath. You are taking an oath. This isn't just a profession. You are required. You are giving up part of your life and part of your freedom to help others. And I think that not many nurses understand that, and not many doctors actually do that. And I want to be the kind of nurse that will put my life on the line for others. And that's why I'm going into humanitarian aid.
Thank you. Deeply. Goes right next to you, I think. Yeah.
I think for me, I'm thinking about all of the kind of earlier anti-ICE stuff I'd done kind of in the late 2010s especially. And like this question that you mentioned of what do we do next? How do we carry it forward? Like there are ways that I didn't immediately carry that forward, and yet it still turned out to be practice. And so I'm thinking about like, yeah, the ways that like both the how do you do direct action, but also just like the experience of sitting with a family who had lost someone to ice for the first time, and how much that kind of broke me the first time I experienced that. And like, yeah, all of those were then experiences and skills I could tap into, even though it had been a few years of not being engaged in that particular fight.
I love that. The opposite of snap back doesn't mean constantly bringing in front of our face all the time like this, because that almost turns it into an object. And so what I heard, what you just said, and tell me if this is a fair listening, is there's also some places that we can trust. It is that place about being rather than doing. And I think we hold that trust tenderly, right? That it's the more times we remember, that we've noticed we remembered, that we can trust. But that's what I just heard in what you said, is like, this didn't go away. It was here, it's in me to rise. And so how are we nourishing that so that when it's time, it can rise again? Thank you for that. I hope that was a okay reading of what you said. Yeah.
I was just thinking about how some of like the networks that we've created have already started influencing our communities. And I live about 2 blocks away from where Alex Preddy was shot. And like I remember in that moment when everyone kind of rushed to the front of the apartment, we started this group chat that now includes almost our whole apartment complex. And everyone's okay, but last week some bullets went through the apartment, and it was, people were able to mobilize like that. Like people went and checked on every single apartment in that area. And the day after, we had a little like coffee time out in the courtyard where everyone checked in on each other and people brought cookies. And it was just so, like, obviously that was a scary thing, but it was so nice to see that these networks that we've created haven't just vanished, and that they're still there to support our communities when needed.
That's beautiful. And we become the people who remember by doing exactly what you just said. Thank you for that. We have space for another, let me do the fancy time check, that thing. We have time for another 1 or 2 if anybody wants to be heard, or if there's something that's rising. And so grateful for what it is that people are saying. I'm learning a lot from you right now. Hello.
Since we're getting to the end of it, I think it's worth lifting up. To feed the field. Because the field, and then we come back to Shavuot, right?
Yes.
So if you feed the field, it will get met and become greater than just us here. So there's so much in popular culture that says to feed yourself.
Beautiful.
But feed the field, because the field will feed you.
And we feed the field by showing up when the bullets come through. We feed the field by suddenly noticing that we didn't forget. It's what there. We feed the field by doing exactly this, what Shatikva, what you were doing to remember. We feed the field by 1,000 and million, bazillion, trillion forever ways. Thank you for lifting that up deeply. We feed each other the field. Because belonging then emerges, right? You don't have to force it. Mm-hmm. Oh. How do you feel about, do y'all sing together? Y'all sing together. I would love to sort of end with to have a song transition before the next. It wasn't on the plan, but I'm just feeling, please.
I have a song I really like that reminds me of what has been going on. It was actually written by an Austrian Holocaust.
Would you see if other people know it? No, Awesome. And would you be willing to teach people to, is it the kind of song we can sing with you?
It's a little folk song, so it's pretty easy.
Okay. How about you sing that, and then we'll see if we sing along, and if not, we'll find one that we also sing along with.
Okay.
But please.
Let's see if I can remember how to sing in a microphone. Be gone to warm and distant shores, Who knows if we shall meet another sun? Will I escape the wrath of men, and you the hunter's gun, and you the hunter's gun? Fly away, little blackbird, fly away. Spread your wings and fly away. If I should live to see another spring, then we shall meet another day. Yes, we shall meet another day. And when you are safe from winter's chilly air, where rivers flow in gentler pace, think of my side of the mountain turning bare, and of dead leaves giving chase, and of dead leaves giving chase. Fly away, little blackbird, fly away. Spread your wings and fly away. And if I should live to see another spring, then we shall meet another day. Yes, we shall meet another day.
Thank you so much. So much. I think that's complete. So I'm guessing before Beth, there is the time to do body things, stretch them, empty them, fill them. Again, thank you. It is such an honor, and I just learned so much with you. Even though I was doing so much talking, trust me, I just learned so much with you. Thank you.
Yasher koach. My friends, there is cheesecake out there. If it is good for your body, please go eat some. You're welcome to bring it back in, and we'll get started at, Rabbi Joey, what time will we resume? At 10:30. Plenty of time for cheesecake.
Oh my God, I was so glad you were here.
Oh my God, it was an honor. Thank you.
Let's keep food out there on our new laminate floors that can be mopped.
Wow.
Nobody saw it coming.
Yes.